Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Mad Capper, and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends. Before we get into the video, just want to let you know, sorry I can't stream today. Today is Saturday, May 7th. Is it May 7th? I don't, it feels like a 7th? Yeah, it is the 7th. I will resume tomorrow. I had to do a fresh install. Well, I didn't have to do, but we've been talking about it on Twitch for a little while because I was having some freezing issues that clearly only started when I upgraded to Windows 11. Dumb me. So we're back to Windows 10 now. I don't have everything on here, but I have enough to at least test this. While doing this video, we're going to test audio quality. We're going to test how well things are working there. Also, I'll be able to make sure that my I have a lot of work to do for my editor, which it didn't save any of my presets or any of my customs. So I'm going to have to rebuild those. It's going to take some time. But long story short, no stream today, but I'm getting this video to you. So we are going to talk about the worst epic in every faction. We're going to go through one by one and tell you who I think is the worst epic that needs to be buffed. Why are we doing this? Because they buffed some epics. Only 4. Out of all the epics in this game, only 4 got buffed, and I think that's not near enough. I think they need to do at least 10. They're going to do a patch where they have, especially the patch didn't have a whole lot in it. They should be doing, 10 epics a run. So I'm going to help you out, Plarium. Here it is. Who I think you need to get your gear on and fix in Raid Shadow Legends. So let's just start it with the Bannerlords, and I think this is a tie. This is actually a pretty well-rounded group. When you actually take a look at it, you've got some really good standouts like Stag Knight and Ursula. You've got Warcaster, very situationally sound. Rowan, very underrated. But you got a couple dogs, and Alaric is not. I is not a fan. But to me, the worst one is Fearmonger. Now he might not be the weakest. He may not be the worst in gameplay, but his kit is so stupid that I have to use him as my one for Bannerlords. So he has an A2 that puts a fear proc for 1 turn on a champion and a decreased speed. And then he puts a true fear on 2 enemies if he kills the one he attacks. One will be placed on with the lowest turn meter, one with the highest turn meter. Great. So now he's got 1 turn to be able to use 2 abilities that both need fear or true fear in order to actually unlock the usefulness. This is ignore defense, and this is a turn meter reduction. If they don't have the fear or true fear, then nothing happens. So first off, that means this champion is useless against bosses. Secondly, for high-level dungeons, there's no way he's doing enough damage to kill. Even single target. His multipliers are not nearly high enough for that, and so he doesn't get a chance to go. Now, there is a passive that boosts his turn meter by 50% whenever an enemy's HP drops below 20. And so you think to yourself, okay, so I debuff, then I nuke, I get the champion like an AoE nuke, like a Magnar, follow up with this guy. Hey, we got a guy below 20% we can hit just to put 2 true fear so that next round we can do this. Or here's an idea, just use another AoE nuker and kill them. Or use one of the other champions who doesn't need this ridiculous fear to ignore, to put this, like, the kit is overcomplicating itself for the sake of overcomplicating itself. And you know what? It's in a faction that if this was in Skinwalkers, he might be a lot better, but he's not. So why would I use Fearmonger when I have Knight Errant, Artemage, Oathbound, I have Seneschal, I have Rowan, I have Azure even, I have Horden, I have all these champions that can hit harder than him. So why would I go through all the hoops and hoopla when I could just bring in one of those other champions? I'll just do it. You know, Sir Artemage, we just did a video on him very recently. The dude smacks. So why would I bother with Fearmonger when I can just bring in him? If you're like, oh, but Spirit Affinity, shut your mouth. Knight Errant can hit really hard. He does need full HP, but that's such a simple it's such a simple thing to figure out. Full health, more damage. Not full health, normal damage. His normal damage still hits harder than Fearmonger's. And so instead of having to figure out this fear, true fear, is he crowd control? Is he nuking? What's going on? You just bring Knight Errant and he just hits people. Oh, and he can stun people with his A2. So to me, Fearmonger makes no sense in the Bannerlords. He's a trash champion that needs to be fixed. His kit needs to be figured the F out. If you want to put True Fear, you got to put True Fear on all the enemies. You got to do something more. It just is not a good kit. Next up, we have High Elves. Now, High Elves has, I believe, the fewest epics in the game right now. But some of the greatest. Royal Guard, Tyrell, Thenisel, all very strong. Luthea is a bit anemic. She's got a little bit of a power creep going against her. Vergus, very strong as well. Marksman and Jingle Hunter, their kits are actually better. I think they're more a meme than anything. They definitely can do better than you think, but you're probably not building them out because they're just not as strong as the others. But the one that pisses me off and has been buffed is Exemplar. Now, pre-buff, she was a nightmare. So this here had a 1-turn block active and a 1-turn freeze, which made no sense because if they're frozen, they're already blocked. And the cooldowns don't reset during freeze. So everything about this made no sense. Now, they did change it to 2 turns, but at the end of the day, it's still a single champion putting this out. And then got this one here. It used to be a 50 to 75. It's now 75 to 100. 2 turns. So this is a lot better. But again, 3 times at random. And one enemy places an extra attack if this hit is critical. Puts one of the target's cooldown if the critical with the weaken debuff. I always hate those because then it's you know what happens is on auto this random hits 3 champions and then she uses this skill and doesn't hit any of the champions that have weaken on them, which drives me nuts. Why do we have to have this 3 times at random when you're applying debuffs? I think all debuffs should be single target or AoE. Random, you can do random stuff, random result stuff, random attacks are fine. But I don't like it when you're randomly putting debuffs up because it makes too much RNG to be able to run through a stage. This drives me nuts because you're not going to put her in a lead in arena because she's a paperweight. She gets killed too easily. And on top of it, and I think this is what pisses me off the most, is her helmet on too tight? She does not look happy to be here. She looks like she's got a concussion. Like the helmet's too tight or something. Look, it's not about looks, but whoever made this kit, like what the it's I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be judging based on that, but I think this champion could look amazing, and instead just looks awful. So looks awful, bad kit, improved kit, yes, but here's why I think she's still the worst. She's a void epic. She should be better than regular epics. Are you going to build this champion over most of these champions? You might be able to argue Luthea. You might. She got buffed. She's a void epic, and she's maybe better than one of the champions in the list. No, needs to be done. Do better. Next up, Sacred Order. Sacred Order's got a really complete group. There are a couple dogs in this group, and probably I should be saying Lady Atessa, Canoness, Missionary, Bushi. Maybe I should be saying one of those. But I'm not. Maybe Lordric. His helmet just angers me. Maybe that's the guy. But the one that I hate is Adriel. And I've made no bones about this when I made the video on her. My problem with her is this is a typical early game pull champion that you're looking at and you're like, oh good, I finally got. But when you actually look at it, what you got is you got scammed. So first of all, she's a support champion with 980 defense. That's mean. She has a magic ally speed. This needs to be obliterated from the game. What a stupid... They haven't done it since, thankfully, but they still have them in the game. Get rid of the magic slash affinity slash faction modifiers. Have it based on geography, right? Have it dungeons, all battles, maybe anywhere. But what pisses me off the most about her is she has a 2-turn decreased attack. That's a 6-turn cooldown. 5 turns when fully booked. So there's still 3 turns where you're absolutely knackered. Now there's people going to be like, well, yeah, but you can go 2 to 1. If you can go 2 to 1, you wouldn't be using this champion. You'd be using a Stag Knight because you probably pulled one by then. Or any of the other AoE champions with decreased attack that are just better than her. The second thing is, if this attack is critical. Now she can hit better than your average bear, but she's not a nuker. She's a support champion. So forcing a critical attack from a support champion is just silly, especially just to get the decreased attack. This ain't killing anyone. So you're making a critical that's not doing enough damage to matter. It's trying to put a thing on a crazy cooldown. And then you've got reflect damage here on a 3-turn cooldown with 20% of their max HP. Again, early game people get scammed by this because your champions have 20 to 30k health, and so they're not getting healed nearly enough because it should be based on her HP, not theirs. And reflect damage, I've said this a million times, it needs to be based on some sort of pure calculation. In other words, if someone's going to hit you for 100k, it should reflect 30% of that 100k. Pre-strengthen, pre-defense up, pre-shields. So even if someone has a shield, if you're going to hit and they have reflect damage and you haven't found a way to debuff that or cleanse it, I think you should you should get that full feedback, whether or not they have shields. That would make reflect damage a way better skill. Right now, it's like a situationally sound skill if you're having problems with Fire Knight. It's the only time you use it. Just a trash overall. And the worst part is she had decreased accuracy before decreased accuracy was cool. But again, just not enough. You're putting a fair amount of books into a champion that you're gonna pass along. If this kit were better, she'd be more usable. Don't like her. It annoys me. So let's move on. Barbarians. Now, Barbarians, this is a tough one because Woad Painted got buffed. So I, not a fan of. Aina, not a fan of, but they have damage. And it probably should be a tour, but I think a tour, if people gave a tour a chance, he'd actually be kind of fun. Because he puts a taunt and a counterattack. And I believe the counterattack can't be removed. Oh no, it's a passive. So every time he gets hit by a critical hit, it doesn't. So he's an HP based champion with good HP. So you can just provoke and then counterattack. Provoke, counterattack, because it's on his A1. He's also got a passive that he's immune to this if he's with Kalia. He's not great, but I think he would be more fun than this train wreck of a champion. That should be better. Probably is better than a tour, but her kit angers me so much that she needs to be on this list. First off, the only good thing about her, right there, good job. So she has an A3 that is hidden unless someone's dead, and when someone's dead, she revives. But this doesn't hit nearly hard enough. Peril, Sky Piercer, and then this. I get that they're legendaries, but sorry, you made a hidden skill. When that skill is able to be used, it should hit like a beast. It should murder stuff, and it doesn't. Then you've got this. It's 3 times at random. See, this is the... Oh, yeah. This just drives me crazy. So it's 3 times at random. Has a 50 bookable to 75% chance. Oh, but it increases to 100% on critical. Then why do I have books being put in for debuff? If it's going to just 100% on critical, a weak hit can't land a debuff. So it's if you just do critical, all this stuff is stupid, and all these books are dumb except for this. Why? Why? And place a 50% increased attack buff on this champion if the attack is critical. Which means you're going to build her critical. Which means you're going to get the critical. Which means stupid. And this in itself is an increased attack on a defense-based champion. Why? Because they added the attack modifier to all of this. Why? Why did you sit down and think that this was a good idea instead of just giving her a defense up or giving her some throwaway add-on to her A1, an extra hit if it's critical or something, but instead you do an increase attack. Now, let's follow the flow. This is close. You use this first. It's on a 4-turn, bookable to 3-turn, though I don't know why you're booking it, because you're not getting any value out of these books. So you hit this round 1, and then it's on a cooldown. Then you hit this, and it has the increased attack. But this is on a 4-turn cooldown. So you're hitting this, so you just keep resetting this, and then maybe you get back to this where that extra attack comes in handy to make this thing hit a little harder. And then maybe by then one of you is dead, and she can maybe revive you. It makes no sense. Just get rid of the attack. Put something useful here. Get rid of the whole first part of this and add something reasonable to this. It just... I don't want to talk about it anymore. Now I'm just angry. I hope you're happy. Next up, we have... Ogre might be the most balanced of all epics. I say that they've got defense. They've got 2 defense down. Ugo's one of the best champions in the game. Claude's underrated. Urgrim is amazing. Grunch is trash, but he's still very usable, and for what he has a continuous heal. The bomb, forget the bomb. He has a passive that fills the turn meters whenever a bomb detonates, I guess. But this it's a cleanse with a continuous heal, which makes it such a good ability if you can get that to 4 turn. What the trashy part about him is this garbage here with all the books. And so I was gonna say someone else, but I think Grunch is my hater. He's not the worst. He's not the worst. The worst champion is probably Galcut. Galcut has like 11k health, and he's a bomb champion with a defense down on his A1, which doesn't help bombs, so it's a confused kid. It's silly. But just the mere fact that Plarium, and they did this with a few champions, have the audacity of putting an 8-book skill on the person's A1, and then followed that up with an 8-book skill on their A2 is the most trashy thing in a long list of trashy things that Plarium has done. Because we all know the only skill that we want this guy to get is that 4-turn cooldown on the cleanse with the heal. And so you have to possibly go through 16 books before you even get a single book into this. And that is garbage. It is predatory. And that's why, to me, Grunch Killjoy has to be completely rewritten. And I know he's not the worst champion. I know it's Galcut or Cagebreaker. But just the fact that they did that on his A1 is so embarrassing that I think that they should make amends. I want reparations. I want reparations. Next up, Lizardmen. Now, Lizardmen, I used to hate this group. I used to think they were the worst epic of the bunch, the worst kind of synergy. However, they've added Venomage. They've added Quargon. He's okay. Broadmaw. I think they strengthened him a little bit. Skathix, really good. Aox, really good. Broodlord, pretty decent. Jareg, a stalwart. I don't know about Z yet. So they've really kind of started to fill out this group. And so for me, it's a pretty middle-of-the-pack group. I think for me, the worst one is, if I get it right, is Basilisk. He's got 2 abilities. One has a single target stun, hits pretty decent, and then he's got a baby at increased attack if the attack is critical, and he revives himself with a block damage. So it's Mimi, but that's all he does. He's the weakest single target champion in the game. It's a meme with this, right? We all know it from Faction Wars. It's never stopped me from winning. It's just annoying. I know for a little while it was the great meme to put him in arena defenses because he lived, but he's got no turn meter. So immediately he gets up with the block damage. Either you cycle through all of your champion's abilities. You probably get some kind of crowd control on him, a stun, a sleep, a freeze, whatever, and then he can't follow up, or you cleanse it, and he just dies anyway. So it's just like a stupid stopgap. Maybe you can say, hey, yeah, but in Faction Wars, that might be the difference because he can heal, he can revive. Shut up. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. But I don't like Drake, but just the way that, if he had one more ability that did something unique, attacked all enemies, did some kind of crowd control, some kind of debuff, anything, ignored some defense, then this guy would actually be pretty good. But the fact is, he's just got 2 single target attacks, which are kind of boring, and the fact that he can revive himself with a block damage just to be annoying in waves that we have to fight. So that's my worst. Pretty easy. Also, runner-up goes to Quargon because his kit looks so amazing, and I think I actually said I didn't mind him, but the reality is the hoops you have to jump through to make this do what you want it to do. The fact that he can't put Veil or Perfect Veil on defense-based champions, so you want to use him in Hydra, too bad, because you still get feared on all your defense support champions. It's only your attack champions that'll avail. It's too finicky for me, but I just think Basilisk is such a base kit that it needs to be said. Now we have, so this used to be the worst for number of epics, but they've added a couple, and I think they've improved. I think Horafees, Fane, Scabrous, I haven't really found a use for him, but I'm not going to say he's bad. Ripper is kind of basic, but he does have the enemy max HP removal if you're looking for a budget version to get rid of the Scarab boss. And then you've got guys like Taurus activates poison bombs, very strong. Rain Beast is kind of anemic now compared to where he used to be. Snorting Thug, I believe, removes buffs on the enemy. Flesh Terror extends and reduces time. So really good rounded out, actually. Yaga I don't like, but he's like the second free champion you get, so or third maybe. So whatever. He's not great, but I want to focus in on the crappy bears, and especially this one. The other one actually was really good in Faction Wars because of his turn meter manipulation, but this dude is pure trash. Decreased crit rate, who cares? In PvE, where he's only good, decreased crit rate is a lot less strong than, for example, in Arena, but you'd never use this guy in Arena. 25% battle, maybe. Block active skills is 10%. You got to put a bunch of books in him to get him to work. Like, look at the books. Whenever an enemy lands a strong, normal, or weak hit, he fills this champion's turn meter. What do I care? What do I care about him getting extra turn meter? I just don't like him. He's like 70% baked. If they made all these skills a little bit stronger, he'd actually be a really good champion. But because they're not, I think the decreased crit rate, meh. The number of books it takes, meh. And this 10%, 20 with 30%, but it's a single attack. 1 in 3, you get to put a block active skills on one champion. No, thank you. Just not a good champion. He's the worst of the bunch, in my opinion, by a landslide, in my opinion. Yaga, the honorable mention, because this guy looks like he should be the upgrade poisoner that we all dreamed about. Like, you started with Kale, but you can go to, when you get Yaga, it's like switch over to Yaga. Don't do it. It's trap. He's awful. Next up, the Orcs. Okay, the Orcs are another pretty well-rounded group. They have the most broken, OP, over-the-top, crazy, should probably be nerfed, but it's too late to do it, champions in the game with Seer. Sandlash Survivor, well-documented endgame arena strategy. Vrask, great heals. Duck is top 5 champion in the game, in my opinion. Torture Helm, kind of sus, but can solo Dragon 20. So kind of fun that way. Bonekeeper, very underrated with the amount of damage she can do on her A2 and A3. Bloodfeather got a buff, and she's also, I've actually made, she's the reason why I passed Faction Wars with Orcs, putting her as the lead and then building the rest of the team with lowered crit rate because of her aura, and she hits really hard, and they made her hit harder. Zargala, very strong hard hitter with a debuff. All throughout, very good. Ultimate Galac's a bit of a meme now, but I think Terror Beast is the worst. Maybe. You know, it attacks one enemy 2 times, has a stun, 4-turn cooldown. Fully heals this champion if they survive, but he's an HP champion. He's got good HP. I don't know. I think it's because of the reflect. Attacks 2 times at random, puts a reflect on all allies for 3 turns. I'm not a fan of Terror Beast. I want to say Shaman, but Shaman is a revive that you get free within a week, which can be good. Tolf, you know what? I take that back. Terror Beast, I've never used him. I can't say he's bad. Tolf I have used. I can't say he's bad. We're going to go with Tolf. I think. I don't know. Like, the Armor Cracker decreases the value of enemy shield buffs by 50% at the start of every turn. Then increases this champion's max HP by the same amount, up to 25% of their max HP. So the skill, the theory here is it's a good shield set counter. The problem is an easier way to counter shields is just to remove them, just to cleanse them, just to clear them, just to strip, as they like to call it. Strip them. And you might be like, yeah, but there's not a lot of strippers in the game. This is the only champion with this, so there's more strippers than Tolfs, which sounds like the best line of a... Anyway, so yeah, I'm not a fan. Attacks one enemy when not attacking bosses and inflicts pure damage and decreases target HP. This doesn't hit nearly hard enough, by the way. Inflicts damage based on this champion's max HP instead. Places a stun debuff for 1 turn if the target already has less than 50% HP. Inflicts damage based on champion's max HP when attacking bosses. His attack cannot be critical, which is what's broken about this. It can't be critical, which means it doesn't hit hard. It looks pretty. It looks kind of neat. Yeah, it decreases. It was so hard to get this to actually work to do anything. That's a problem. They got to wait over. They overcreated. They overcreated them. They prematurely creative nidsed on them, and it's just ends up being just a garbage champion. Who kit looks great on paper, but they prematurely creative nidsed on him, and it ends up just being so stupid because you never get the full use of his kit, and there's just better champions to bring in to do anything and everything he does. So Tolf's my pick. Terror Beast I'm gonna have to build now because I want to know if he should have been my pick, and I know I don't like Two-Hawk either, but I think Tolf is gonna be my choice here. This is a pick'em. You can let me know in the comments down below who you hate worse than Tolf. Demonspawn. I'm gonna run out of voice here. Good old Demonspawn here. So Demonspawn actually has a crazy good amount of champions. I'll tell you what. I think the biggest problem with them is that none of the epic champions are really strong in their Faction Wars 21. But the addition of Magnar and then Gorlos finally getting a defense debuff really makes this whole group very good. Now, I haven't played Dur yet. I wasn't a fan of Skimfos. Vildrax, unfortunately, because Hexes we've never really quite been able to make work. Arrhenius did get a buff, still not very strong. But the one I hate the most, by far, is Scion. And I know you guys saw this coming. And I know you know why. This is a login champion. After getting through, let's go through this. We need visual aid. I know, hey, you can skip it if you don't like me going so long. So you daily login rewards. You go through 30 days. Now keep in mind, we had big gaps. If you're a OG, you had a big gap after 90 days before they finally added more. There was a big wait time. So you get High Khatun, you get Yaga, you get Dark Aethel. You're a little bit disappointed. Dark Hellion, oh, kind of cool. Lordly Legionary doesn't quite work, but he's not bad. Still the Drake's one of the best champions in the game. Tanix helps you get through Demonspawn. Grush, very solid overall champion, really helps in Ogre and Tribes. Vizix, since she got buffed, an amazing underrated champion. Then you go through 271 day ones, 30 days, times 4 to get Cleopteryx, which they've buffed. Then you go through 4 more months. Are we counting 270 days? So that's what, 9 months, I think? And then 8 months. And after all that, what do you have to show for it? Oh, well, funny you should ask. You have this guy, whose hit reads like, well, it kind of feels like Tolf's. So enemies under block active, block buff, and heal reduction cannot decrease this champion's turn meter. Heaven forbid I should decrease this champion's turn meter. I'm not even sure what was their counter plan. What was it? They're like, oh yeah, we got you, Lysandra. Okay, what's he gonna do? Debuff Lysandra, who throws it back at him next turn? I don't know. It removes all buffs from this champion and then attacks all enemies. Places a 50% increased attack and 30% increased damage buff for 1 turn after attacking. So he doesn't even get to use this buff on this skill, which is the AoE. Which means he gets to use it on this, which is a single enemy, place a block buff, and a heal reduction debuff. Will ignore any shield buffs. Whoa, look at me go now. Plus he's got the increased crit rate, crit damage. Still not enough damage, anemic. And then he has this, which in of itself is fine. A block active skills on an A1, 30% chance. That's actually a great ability on anyone. Dungeons by 24%. Yeah, okay, fine. But it just makes no sense that after a year and a half in the game, this is what you're giving me. This is your like, congratulations for playing and spending money and keeping us afloat and making us our yachts and sending our money around the world to spread cheer and wealth among the people who own us. Let me give you Scion. It's just... this is what we gave up a sacred and a 5-star chicken for. Trash champion, fix him. I don't think I need to say anymore. I don't even care if you think he's not the worst in the group. It's a matter of principle. Undead Horde. Yeah, the worst legendary champion in this bunch by far. No questions asked. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200. Is the Void Epic that they still don't have in the game 3 years later. How do you not have a Void Epic champion in the Undead Horde? And I know you're not scared to add champions to Undead Horde because look at them all. And you can't even give me one? Alright. Balthus is the problem. It's not his fault. It's his kit's fault. This 30% reflect damage we talked about 100 times. He's got a attacks one enemy, places a 2-turn provoke. It's pretty decent to lock someone down for 2 turns. The decreased crit rate, not a fan of. Too many books to get there. And it does attack all enemies though. He's a cool looking champion. I'll give him that. And then has this is actually a really good skill to have on an A1. So his problem is quite simply reflect damage sucks balls. And until that's fixed, he's no good. The second that's fixed, he's actually a pretty good champion. I do like his kit overall. I just don't like the fact that you can't really use it because he's got a trash inherit ability on him. I could have said Defiled Sinner. He's not very good. Karam is situationally usable. I don't like Lich, but I can absolutely see how he's better than Balthus, given that Balthus' main ability doesn't work. So overall, I'm gonna say that. Though I will give honorable mention to Lich because the guy does turn meter and then heals himself. Does nothing. He's a wasted skin. Other than those rare occasions that you need someone with a 100% turn meter decrease on a 3-turn cooldown because you don't have one of the many other champions that have that. I get that, and that's why Balthus is my pick. And the Void epic that doesn't exist. Dark Elves. Great set of champions. I'd have to go... I haven't played with Gwyneth yet. Might be the worst. But this dude here just angers me. So we're picking him. So why is he the worst? Well, let's see. First of all, 6 turns to get to reflect damage. By the way, that's a shield. That's a block damage. I guess that's your reflection there on the... I don't know. Anyway, don't like it. Reflect damage on a 7. Then another 6 books to get a baby attack and a baby increase defense. And then another 7 books to get a weaken on a single enemy. This is the OG of trash library. This is a geeky librarian that probably joined the library because he wanted to try to get with Alika. She took one look at him and was like, settle down, emo. Why don't you go sing a sad song and maybe come back in a couple years when you get a haircut. And then he just got mad, and now he just reads a lot of books. That's the backstory. You're welcome, Layla. I made you a backstory for Warden. Don't like him. I think the amount of books he has is embarrassing, especially for the skills you get. You get reflect damage, you get baby versions of stuff, and you get a baby weaken on 3,800 books. Come on, do better. If you built Warden, you did it wrong because literally every champion in Dark Elves can be used somewhere. Tamel, very strong champion. Kate got revived. Dark Kill hits really hard, got tons of poisons. I'm not sure about Gwyneth, but I assume there's something about Gwyneth that's kind of cool. Spider has debuffs, albeit I don't like his debuffs. It's only 1 turn, but still can use him in Spider. Rhea well, for nothing else, she looks badass, right? She's got the block debuff. She's got the weaken. I like her look. We can keep going. Maybe Visionary might be bad too, but nah. The worst champion by far is Warden. Knights Revenants. I think the thing I hate the most about Knights Revenant in general is, other than Rector Drath, when they add champions to this group, they haven't really addressed Faction Wars 21 any better than they had before. It's still very difficult. But because I just made a video on him as my opinion is the worst champion in Raid Shadow Legends, which I think people get confused, and it's my fault. When I say the worst champion in Raid Shadow Legends, he may not be the worst in usability. It's that the design, the kit, and the intent is shitty compared to what it should be. So when you look at Kitus and you think, well, that guy can actually, we've seen it, he can actually wipe other teams if you use his abilities. Same with Deathless, not great. Necrohunter's getting buffed. Pitiless One got buffed. Crypt Witch, I used Crypt Witch to beat Faction Wars 21. Did a video on her. She's not great, but usable in her scenarios. In his scenario, he's not even best in class. He's not best in his faction. I don't like him. I think that his kit needs to be better. He's not as good as at least 3 or 4 other epic champions that are nothing special, that are just better than him at exactly what he does. We did a 1-to-1 Vogoth, and he's essentially poor man's Vogoth, but he's not poor man's because he's not a rare. If you're a rare champion, he'd be amazing, but he's not, and that's why I don't like him. Granted, he's probably, especially in Faction Wars here, I would say use Burgoth over Kitus, over Deathless. Probably even over Whisper, and honestly, Skullcrown in Faction Wars is very tough to use. but he still doesn't make him good. It still makes him wrong. It still makes his whole kit production undervalued, and it should absolutely be at least as strong as other champions of his same nature. And it's unfortunate that he just got the short end of the stick on this. If you need heals in this faction, Sinesha, stop building Sinesha to be a blender. Build her tanky. She heals like a true boss with 2 different skills. Doom Priest, 4K. You can put her 4K defense, and she just survives forever and heals people. You do not need Bergoth for this faction. Rectordrath obviously heals plus survives plus the Veil, all that stuff. But yeah, I just think that if you're building Bergoth, you're either just grasping at straws or you just had really bad pull luck. But that shouldn't be like, well, he's good because I had really bad pull luck and I had to use someone else. So Bergoth can piss off. Dwarves are actually pretty well balanced. I like the Dwarves offerings. I think they have a little bit of everything. I haven't really had a chance to play around with Flyja. Sounds like a bad 90s skit comedy with a Norwegian. Flyja? Sorry, I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to be discriminatory of some sort. Inflammatory for no reason. So to pick the worst one, it would have to be Beardall. I say that. I did a video on him. I actually used him to beat Faction Wars 21 when I first beat Dwarves. He's not as bad as you think he is, but compared to everyone else, he is. He just... he puts the counterattack on himself. I think the problem is this doesn't hit hard enough. The heal reduction is whatever, 60%. It's just, whatever. I think it just comes down to when you look at the champions and you look at the mix, especially if you have 1 or 2 of the legendaries, and Beardall seems to be the odd man out. Everyone else has a strong purpose in this game. He is one of the few nukers, but again, I would probably just say use Gallo Longbraids over Beardall if you need a nuker. And again, it comes down to the fact that he is a void affinity epic champion, and he should just be better than he is. I think it's a damage. I think it's just multipliers. I think if you had better damage, I think it'd be less problem. I don't hate him, but I think in as far as dwarves go, I think there's probably 3 or 4 champions, well, probably a bunch of champions in the other factions over above what we've mentioned that might take the place over this guy, but doesn't make him good, just makes him kind of middle tier, and he, as a void epic, probably shouldn't be. Finally, I honestly like what they've done with this group of epics overall. They've got some really strong epics like Toragi, Genbo, Berengiri, Aboro. These are really good champions. Shani is one of my favorite champions in the game. Her look, her feel, her kit, her play, the cool, like, it's just fun. Her animations when she just absolutely obliterates someone. She's not the best, but I just love her. Something about her, one of my favorite. Probably my favorite epic. Not my favorite as far as best, but just as I think she's cool, looks cool, and plays cool. But we're in the last faction. I'm actually having a problem here. I think this is a really well built out faction, and I think there's better and worse. I was gonna say Hotatsu, but when you actually look at his kit, it's not as bad as it's actually usable. And that makes it very difficult to... Same with, like, Jojen's not that great, but it's usable. Gori's not that great, but like, Matsumoto, I think... I mean, I'm going to pick Matsumoto. He's one of the newest champions of the epics. I like his look. He looks cool. Increased defense on all allies. Turn meters, it's actually a really good skill. Decreased attack, it's only 75% chance. Not a fan, but usable. My problem with him is the same problem I've had with a few other champions. He's got 8 books on his A1 for a chance to steal a random buff. So this has nothing to do with this skill. It's a fucking throwaway skill. It has everything to do with the fact that you want these cooldowns. This is what matters for him. This is what you want. The turn meter plus the increased defense. And this is just a way to buffer this. And it's such a trashy way. It's so slimy to put 8 books on an A1. It's so slimy. It's so predatory. It's so garbage. So Matsumoto, though I like his kit, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. He's a defense support-based champion. I think he'd be very strong in a team, at least usable. Except for those books, just make it embarrassing. And so for that reason, in an overall pretty well balanced faction of epics, I have to go with Matsumoto is the clear worst in class. Now, full disclosure, I have not used Taya yet, and I have not used Gori yet. So I haven't, or Yuma Togi, I have not used her yet. So maybe they're worse, but I just feel like that the trashy 8-book A1 is more than enough reason just to put him on the list. So there it is. Those are my worst epics in each of the factions that need to be buffed. What are your thoughts? Leave it in the comments down below. Is there an epic that you think is worse than the ones I mentioned? Feel free. Also, I believe it was like ones like this one where it's so, I have to pick one type thing. Did I pick the right one? Is there one that you think is worse? Let me know. And of course, as always, please be safe, be kind. See you in the next video. And happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there tomorrow. Happy Mother's Day. Way to have sex, make baby, and then raise baby to hate you for 5 years. Well done. And happy Mother's Day to my mother, who I will call tomorrow before I stream. Which I hope to see you there. And maybe we'll have a mother good time. Mother of a good time. Holy 42 minutes. Peace.